Friends, we gather here this morning together to celebrate the life and to honor the memory of Julie Baumoel. Julie's family so very much appreciates your presence here with them, which offers them a great deal of comfort and support. And of course, for all of us who feel the loss of Julie, we all are comforted, I know, by each other's presence.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roi lo echsar, Binoteh sheyarbitzeni, An menuchot yanachaleni, Nafshi yishovev, Yanacheni v'magle tzedek lema'an shemo, Gam ki helech begeitz al mavet, Lo yirara ki atay madi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tsurirai. Dishanta vashamen roshi hosir vaya. Ach tov chesed yirdifuni kol yamei chayai v'shaveti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim.
Adonai ma'adam v'teda'ehu ben enosh v'chashvehu. O Lord, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath, our days are as a passing shadow. We come and we go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening it fades and it withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, Return, you mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright. They shall have peace. The author of the first of the Bible's 150 Psalms describes for us in language both poignant and succinct the nature of the good life and the fruits of that life. Happy are those who have not followed the counsel of the wicked or taken the path of sinners or joined the company of the insolent. Rather, the teaching of God is their delight, and they study that teaching day and night. They are like a tree planted beside streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, whose foliage never fades, and whose fruit always flourishes. Let us take comfort together now in the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Kohelet, the author of the biblical book of Ecclesiastes, reminds us that for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember Julie Baumoel. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, Julie Baumoel too will live, for she is always a part of us as we remember her. As Julie Baumoel lay in a bed in a hospital in Canton, our staff at the temple frequently asked one another, "Do you know how Julie Baumoel is doing? And we miss her. When is she going to come back to us?" And when the word spread that she had died, we all looked to one another and sent each other emails to express our grief and to find comfort in one another. Now, Julie Baumoel was not a well-known public figure, nor were her life and her achievements front-page material. She was simply but deeply admired and loved. She touched us. And over the past couple of days, I have searched for the words to express why this was and why it continues to be so. Julie Stanko was born on September 16, 1934, and raised on a farm in a town named Ruska in Czechoslovakia. She remembered how during World War II, soldiers would regularly come through their area and stay at their farm, and how she and her family would periodically rush to a bomb shelter. Her family was poor, and to conserve their meager resources, they lived together with their grandparents as well. And Julie distinctly remembered the frightful impact on her of her strict grandmother. Evidently, Julie was a troublemaker as a child, a pistol, frequently skipping school to go swimming with friends. On one of those outings, she witnessed the drowning of a friend. And so Julie grew up in the challenging circumstances of poverty, war, domestic tension, and impending and sometimes real calamity. At the age of 17, Julie came to America. The specifics of that journey, its causes, its purposes, are uncertain. Was she accompanied by her father, or did he come here before her? Why did her mother not accompany her? Was the immediate reason for her journey her desire to escape the arranged marriage that had been prepared for her? Whatever the details, it is certain that before she had reached her 20th birthday, her life had already been filled with a lifetime of incidents which assuredly made a lifelong and indelible impact on her. Sometime before 1960, Julie met Skip Baumoel, and they were married in 1960. Along with planning for the wedding, Julie converted at this point to Judaism. And for her, this consequential move was not made without thought and without conviction. For Julie, and this was so characteristic of her, she took her covenant with God and with fellow Jews seriously. She was determined to live a Jewish life, to create a Jewish home, to raise Jewish children. It was she mostly who insisted that their boys, Jeffrey and Jonathan, attend religious school and become B'nai Mitzvah. Indeed, her deep involvement in so much of the life of our temple is ample testimony to the depth and the durability of her faith and of her faithfulness. And when Julie decided to go to work as a hostess at the Sheraton Hotel restaurant on Chagrin Boulevard, she went at her job with characteristic energy and focus. Now, those of us who knew Julie well know that at this job, she was not going to limit herself to the soulless words of her written job description. No, Julie intended, as she always intended, to inhabit the task. And this meant, now in the words of her children, this meant taking over the place in true Julie fashion. All the while, I imagine, with her unique blend of directness, devotion, and kindness. And of course, her customers loved her. And Julie's matchless energy and drive found many other expressions. Her son Jonathan and her daughter-in-law Lynn told me the other day that whenever Julie would visit them at home, she would almost immediately upon arrival get to work, sweeping and cleaning and helping to clear the table and to do the dishes. Even when after a meal her daughter-in-law Lynn was inclined to let the dishes go for a while, she knew that Julie was going to get up and do them now. And so Lynn had to get up and do them with her. Activity, rising to the task, doing the work that needed doing. This was Julie Baumoel. And perhaps along the way, Julie found some solace in the labors that she had undertaken. And so when Skip died in 1990, Julie, again in characteristic fashion, resolved to keep going, to continue the things she had been doing, and to find new missions and new commitments. She resolved to live a life of purpose, even in the absence of her husband. And she did this in two ways, especially: supporting her mother-in-law and contributing to her community, and especially to our temple. Now, back when she and Skip were dating, Skip's mother had expressed strong disapproval that her son was marrying a woman of Christian origin. And this produced some real tension between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. In the hands of lesser individuals, this tension may have hardened into animosity and animosity into habit, but not with Julie and her mother-in-law. In fact, over time, the two of them became good and devoted friends. And in her mother-in-law's last many years, Julie committed herself with her hands and with her heart to her mother-in-law's well-being, coming to visit her regularly, tending to her needs, doing anything that was in her power to do. I can't imagine a better daughter-in-law than my mother, her son Jonathan said to me through tears. And then there is Julie's involvement in and devotion to many of our temple programs. All of us who knew and who loved her have our favorite Julie Baumoel stories, and I want to share with you a few of mine. Torah study. Now, Julie was a regular participant over the years in our Shabbat morning Torah study sessions. and she was always ready to distribute handouts and to help people find their seats. But she went way beyond these important gestures. A bit of background. As many of you know, we have our coffee and bagel table set up every Shabbat morning. This all runs smoothly because the participants in the group sign up to fund the bagel table and the live streaming offering. Participants also volunteer to pick up the fresh bagels at 8 o'clock each Shabbat morning. Now, when you sign up in September to sponsor a bagel table, say in January or in April, and then you send in your check, you don't have to think about it anymore. It just happens. But when it's your turn to pick up the bagels, a reminder would most definitely be helpful. Julie, on her own, recognized this and took it upon herself to make the weekly reminder call to each person several days before his or her appointed Saturday. And largely because of her, we have, thank God, never, ever missed our bagels. And then there is our semi-annual seniors luncheon. Now, this lovely event is labor-intensive and requires the combined efforts of many people. And we have a large and dedicated committee to prepare for these luncheons. Among the many things we provide is a centerpiece of colorful, fresh flowers at each of the 10 or 12 tables. Guess who volunteered to do this? Now, were I to be charged with this task, I would undoubtedly go to the supermarket, purchase the flowers, and then find someone to create and then place the centerpieces. Not Julie. For the first several years, she found the flowers herself, as she told me, in the neighborhood. And when I would ask her where she managed to get such beautiful flowers and in such abundance, she would look me in the eye and say, without a hint of irony, "It's for our seniors, Rabbi Klein." But then one day, she went to Trader Joe's and told the manager that a synagogue in the neighborhood, I believe she said, in your neighborhood, was putting on these luncheons, and wouldn't he like to provide the with Julie's charm that he told her, just go into the back and take whatever you need. Well, then one day, someone told me that there was a new manager at Trader Joe's. Not wanting to put the task on her, I decided to call Trader Joe's myself to see if this new manager would continue its lovely and generous offer. Before I did so, I decided to call Julie and to tell her what I was about to do. But long before I could finish telling her this, she realized what I was up to, interrupted me, and she said, "Rabbi Klein, I have already called Trader Joe's. And the nice young man said that he would be glad to continue donating the flowers." Ever alert, ever ready to anticipate, and then to apply herself to the challenge at hand, Julie had quietly gone about taking care of the matter all by herself. I also remember, and we all do, Julie's devotion to the sacred work of our temple's usher corps, passing out prayer books, greeting people at our Kabbalat Shabbat and B'nai Mitzvah services, working hard at our high holiday services. I can well remember as a Rosh Hashanah service was unfolding and I standing at the pulpit in the front, I remember Julie bringing people down to their seats, prayer books in hand, making sure that they were comfortable. She reveled in her role. Now, every now and then, in her single-minded way, she pushed the boundaries of her role and brought latecomers down the aisle before it was entirely proper to do so. One time after she had done this, and days later, I took her aside and I gently told her how to know when people should be seated. I thought I did this gently, but she was mortified. "Oh, Rabbi Klein," she said, "please do not be angry with me." I assured her that I wasn't angry, that the matter had its complexities, that others were also somewhat confused, and that we ourselves were remiss in not making these subtleties crystal clear from the outset. She was still mortified. I told her that I love her and that I respect her, and all of us are so glad that she is one of our indispensable ushers. I could tell that she wasn't in the least bit mollified, because what mattered to her was to do her job flawlessly. And over the years, she continued to return to the subject, hoping that I was not disappointed in her. So, Julie, if you can hear me, I want you to know that I was never and am not now disappointed in you. As it happens, Julie was to receive her 25-year pin at our annual usher dinner in a couple of weeks. She was very excited about the prospect of receiving this. And we can all feel good that she knew that she was about to be honored. Sadly, she will not be there to receive it. But I have her pin right here, and I will be giving it to her family so that they will have this symbol of her tireless devotion to our temple and of our undying love for her. Julie, we will never forget you. Zichrona livracha. Her memory will always be our blessing. Amen. I now want to call on first her son Jonathan and then her daughter-in-law Lynn, who will reflect on the life, the qualities, the accomplishments of their mother and mother-in-law.
I'm going to try to keep it together here. When we had discussed this with the rabbi, we had talked about the order we were going to go in, and I thought I was going to go first. So listening to the rabbi there obviously is extremely emotional, and I'm about as proud as I can be being the son of such a fantastic lady. But on behalf of my brother Jeffrey, on behalf of my family, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I had the opportunity to speak with many of you leading up to today. Others who couldn't be here texted me, called me, and I'm also so glad that I had a chance to talk with many of you before out in the main area, because some of you I haven't seen for a while, some of you I had an opportunity to meet for the first time. And talking with all of you, the word that comes to mind in discussing my mother is that she was special. She was one of a kind, and she was a special mother. She was a special grandmother. She was a special friend. She was a special member of the community, of the temple. And with her passing, it's allowed me the opportunity to reflect more on her life, and we did have an opportunity to speak with Rabbi Klein, and I thank God for that opportunity, and I thank God that Rabbi Klein could be here today. She was such an important part of her life. That whole Torah group, the whole temple, was such an important part of her life. And we discussed some of the bigger moments, but when I think about my mother, sometimes it's those smaller moments that stick out. And for some reason, the one moment that always comes back in my mind is when I was in about 4th or 5th grade playing Little League Baseball. And one of the reasons I will never forget this is my brother is an avid photographer, fantastic photographer. He had a dark room in the house, and he actually took pictures of this moment. But I was playing and rounding third base, and there was going to be a big play at home plate. And in my mind, I'm going to score. And there's this catcher there who's about twice my size, and he got the ball before I got there. And in my mind, I tried to actually leap over this gigantic young kid. And he, of course, stood up at the time. I'm in the air, and I do a flip and land on my backside. And before the umpire even had an opportunity to call me out, my mother was out there at home plate. She was there checking on me, and that's just kind of symbolic of who she was in our life. She always wanted to be the first one there. First one there to protect us, to take care of us. The other little things about my mom is she was such a warm and pleasant person, and whether it's consciously or subconsciously, she realized the effect that people have on one another. Not in the long term, but every day, every moment. It was so important for her to be friendly to people, for them to be friendly back to her. She knew how important that meant to her, and she returned that, whether it was a stranger that she would smile at, someone she'd say hello to, whether it was a cashier that she would pick up a conversation. In fact, the last time I met her for lunch in Beechwood, we met at Trader Joe's, and went through the cashier line, and the cashier kind of got into it a little bit with the customer before us. And my mom, of course, though, gave her a smile, started a joke, and the next thing you know, the two of them are laughing and getting along like they're long-lost buddies. That's kind of the power that she had, for her to always want to treat people the way she wanted to be treated. And the reverse is true as well. The way people treated her had such an effect on her. And Rabbi Klein referred to her ushering, and that was such a big part of her life, interacting with the temple, being a part of the temple, and the whole temple crew. And so many of you have come up to me today, and I really appreciate that. That'll be something that I'll never forget. But I'll get through this. A couple months before her death, I know, and I don't know if this was at whether this was a ceremony or a lecture that Rabbi Klein gave, but he pointed out to the congregation about my mom's efforts, and pointed out to them about her being an usher and the special in the years that she's given. And that meant so much to her. I wasn't there, but she called me, and my mom had a lot of, she had a lot of stresses that she worried about all the time. And I think at the time her condo was undergoing some renovations that was driving her nuts. But then I got that call regarding Rabbi Klein's words, and she sounded like a school kid again. She was so happy. She was so proud. That one or two sentences just meant so much to her. And the other part of her life, which had a daily effect, was her interaction with her grandchildren. When she would spend time with them, the anxieties would lessen, the worries would go away. She would seem so much younger all of a sudden when she'd be with them, and that's the effect that they had on her. And so the number one lesson I want them to know, and that I've taken from my mom, and there's many lessons that I've learned from her through her life, but it's the effect you have on each other just in those small moments, because I know she had a special effect on so many people. I would dare to say on anyone who she interacted with, and probably with most people here. She was a special person. I love her. We all love her, and we miss her.
Jonathan and I met in 1990, the same year that John's father, Skip, passed away. I never had the pleasure of knowing Skip, and I never had the pleasure of witnessing Julie as a married person. The Julie Baumoel that I knew was a widow who had to learn to navigate the world without her husband at her side. The Julie that I knew was the caretaker and companion of Jonathan and Jeffrey's grandmother, Esther, who lived 9 years after Skip's death. The Julie that I knew was the loving grandmother of our children, Olivia, Griffin, Nathan, and Emmy. We all knew Julie in different ways, and she will be remembered in many ways. But for me, I'll remember Julie most, and she'll live on for me in my children. I'll remember how she could smile and make you feel welcome when I see my daughter Olivia smile and see her enjoyment of her family and friends. I'll remember Julie's courage and bravery when I see my son Griffin face challenges at the Naval Academy and in football. I'll remember Julie's intelligence and tenacity when I see my son Nathan excel at school. And I'll remember Julie's generosity and kind heart when I see my daughter Emmy's empathy for others. In preparing for today, I came across a poem that I think fits Julie's memory well. It's a poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry, and it's called "Do Not Stand at My Grave and Weep." Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush. of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry, I am not there, I do not die.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אליך מבהיקים בחשכת הליל, הם שמרים לאדם את הדרך, as we live our days. These are the ways we remember.
O God of life, amid the ceaseless tides of change which sweep away the generations, your love remains to comfort us and to give us hope. Around us are life and death, decay and renewal, the flowing rhythms that all things obey. Our life is a dance to a song that we cannot hear. Its melody courses through us for a little while, then it seems to cease. Whence the melody and whither does it go? In darkness as in light, we turn to you, the source of life and the answer to all of life's mysteries. Will you please rise for the El Mole Rachamim?
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, המסי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע המזהירים, את נשמת יקירנו שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן תחיה מנוחתה. אנא ברחמים אסתירך בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר אמן.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Julie Baumoel, our loved one who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance, may she rest in peace, and let us say together, Amen. Will you please be seated? I want to announce that our service will continue now at graveside at the Mayfield Cemetery. Once again, on behalf of the family, we so much appreciate your presence here with us this morning.